There we go. One thing that we found is that while sometimes the times of the Zoom call doesn't work for everybody, Jane and I and Ruth here that's on the call definitely send it out to our database, and we usually get a very high response rate on people that's watching our videos. This is our third in a series of 7 that we're doing this year, just kind of helping out everybody that's our friends and family within our database. I mean, we've done things like a buyer seminar back in January. We did the seller seminar coming up in February. Now we have Brad that's here tonight that I'll introduce you here in a second. And then we're planning on having, the plan's kind of like having a lawyer on next, during next month to talk about some things with real estate too. So with that said, I'd like to introduce Brad Vey. He is a great financial guy. He'll tell you a little bit of history about who he is and what he does. And I always mess up the name of his firm. And it's funny because I also use him as my own personal financial guy in retirement investment, stuff like that, which, by the way, as a segue, he does an awesome job with me and what I've got going on. What's that?
That was my computer talking, sorry.
Oh, no worries. I'm like, okay, am I not talking loud enough? Bueller, no. So I'd like to introduce Brad. It's Fuguth, right?
Foguth.
Financial that he works for. Talk to us a little bit about what's going on in the current climate, some ways to invest, and some things that he'd like to share. So
yeah, so I'm oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, Jim. I've never done a PowerPoint on here before, so I'm going to see if I can share my screen doing the PowerPoint really quick, because it'll work better if I have some stuff to follow, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, I have it set up down there for you to be able to click on share.
Yep, so let me just go in here, make sure I get this on there. All right. Let's try this now. I'm clicking there we go. All right, so I've got a PowerPoint here that I put together, and it's actually one of the main workshops that I do so I do events, usually 4 to 5 a month, and I usually segment it by talking about either taxes, or I talk about Social Security, income planning. And so tonight I'm going to talk to you a little bit about hit each of those topics, and I'm also going to talk about the what's going on out in the markets right now, and what some things that you can do to help ease the pain, we'll call it. And then at the end we'll have some time for questions, and then I'm also always available. So Foguth Financial Group opened up in roughly around, I think it was 2009 officially. And it's actually a buddy of mine who started the company, Michael Foguth. We actually started in the business together back in 2007, summer of 2007. So it was right before the big downturn started from 07 to 09. So a great time to get in the business. And so he left the company we started with first, and then I followed. He in 2016 or end of 2015 called me and said, "Hey, I'm expanding, gonna open up a larger office. Why don't you come work with me?" So I was the first advisor he brought on. And if you notice here on the bottom here, it says we've got 4 offices listed on there. And actually, since this slide was put together, we've actually opened an additional 2 offices. We also have an office in Traverse City, and then one that just opened in Shelby Township. And so Brighton is our flagship office, main office that we started first. Then we opened the Northville location, and the third one was the Clarkston location, which is where I mainly work out of now, and I prefer to work out of. So I'm there about 70 to 80% of the time, and it's just north of 75 on Ortonville Road right there. And on the left-hand side, so the north, I think that's north there, north side, and it's the Verde building. And so we're growing, we're growing drastically. And what that tells us is that there's a lot of people out there that need our help. And so we have all these locations. I don't work out of all of them. I do still work out of Brighton and Northville because I have clients that it's more convenient for them there. But majority, anything new really coming in is mostly Clarkston. But I can meet in others. So again, I started in 07 in the financial services industry, became an investment advisor representative in 2013, and actually went out and started sitting across the table from people. The reason I did this was because I noticed there was some missing elements for people that were planning on retirement. Our main focus that we do are the majority of our clients are nearing retirement or already retired. And so I found that there was advisors weren't giving recommendations on Social Security. They weren't giving recommendations on taxes. They weren't creating overall income plans that incorporated all those important pieces of the puzzle. And so that's when I decided to go out and to actually become and sit down as an advisor myself. So I've got a Series 65 license, which allows me to manage portfolios and put together plans for clients. And it allows me to more flexibility because it allows me to be able to offer my clients any financial product out there that's available. And I don't get paid a commission for buying and selling. We charge a management fee for strategies that are risk-based, right? And then anything safe side that there's no market risk, we get paid directly from the companies to recommend those. So it depends. I have clients that just do the safe side. I have clients that just do the investment side. And I have clients that do both of them together. Typically, when you're getting close to retirement, you need to reduce down risk, and that's where the fixed side comes into play. My wife and I live in West Bloomfield, and we have, I need to update this slide too. We have 2 daughters together. We have Emma, who's 16. She'll be 17 in May. She is driving. And then Avery is 8 or just turned 9 years old in beginning of February. She's in 3rd grade. We also have a foster daughter actually now that she moved in back in August of 2021, right? And so she graduated she's 18, she'll be 19 in April. She graduated from West Bloomfield High School last year. And I don't think I have the picture on here, but we actually went to her graduation up at Pine Knob, which was really cool. And she's a freshman at Michigan State now. So we're definitely very busy. But we spend a lot of time together with the family. We have I bought the house, believe it or not, I bought the house right next door to my in-laws. Everyone always gives me a hard time about it, but it's not bad. I haven't seen my mother-in-law. I saw her more when I was just down in Roatan, Honduras. It's an island down in the Caribbean. I saw her more down there than I have all year up here because she lives part-time there, part-time here. She's fortunate enough to be able to work from home. So I live right next door to them. So because the way we structured our business and the way we want to be able to help our clients, I became an expert in Social Security. There's one group out there, the National Social Security Advisors Group. It's a couple gentlemen that actually worked for Social Security and decided to leave the public sector and go in the private sector. And so they started this program for training advisors on how to utilize Social Security for people that are getting ready to retire. And so I've been working with them since 5, 6, 7 years, something like that. Whenever they started it, it wasn't long after that I signed up with them, and I do continuing education with them every year. I had to do so many hours of studying, and then I had to take a big test and pass it, and then every other year or so I have to get updated on it. And I'll tell you one thing: it's a great resource because there's constantly changing the laws. And these 2 guys know it inside and out. And so since I see a lot of people and everyone's situation is different, if I ever get a question that I don't know the answer to, I'm not going to make up an answer. I will say, hey, I don't know quite sure 100%, but I will find out. And this is the group I use to find that out. We're also part of the Ed Slott Master Elite IRA Advisor Group. Now, Ed Slott's a CPA by trade. And he specializes in retirement dollars. the reason he does this is retirement dollars are typically most people's largest asset besides their home when they go into retirement. And it was a great tool for building wealth because you got a tax break for putting money in. The money was allowed to grow and you didn't have to pay taxes on the growth each year. And then when you retire, you take the money out and hoping you're at a lower tax bracket. Well, it doesn't always work that way. It seems more and more retirees are paying way more taxes in retirement than they expected. And so we teamed up with Ed Slop because, again, our goal is to make sure that when one of our clients retires, that we're fitting all the pieces of the puzzle together and making our recommendations so that everything's going to work properly. If your tax plan doesn't work with your income plan and you end up having to pay more taxes, it's less money in your pocket. If you forget to take money out when they force you to at age, we'll talk about this, but now it's age 73 if you were born between like 1955 and 1959, and it's 75 if you're born after or 1960 or later, and that just changed at the end of the year last year. So we'll get into that a little bit more, but we want to make sure that, hey, you're not getting any penalties, you're keeping more money in your pocket and less money is going to Uncle Sam. So right now, over the last couple of years, we've had some great market volatility. It's been crazy. Last year was a big swoop down. It recovered a little, then swooped down again more at the end. And people are getting worried, and rightfully so. If we look here, this is the S&P 500, this green area, growing back to the 1960s. And if you see partway in right here, 2000, where we had a high, everyone remembers this, 2000, the market hit an all-time high, and then it shot down and lost almost 50%. From 2003 to 2007, it recovered all that and then a little bit more. And then everyone remembers 07 to 09, the market had lost 59% at one point during that year. And actually 2008 was a 38% loss. So, and since then we've had this great growth up until COVID happened. We had a steep down, great growth, and then last year happened. So, the last 10 years, the S&P 500's averaged 10.4%, even with two party changes and three presidents who had approval ratings under 50%. And coming up into a new, another election, people get worried about, hey, with the election, things are going to happen. The election's not going to negatively affect it a whole heck of a lot. But it's the other factors around that can come into play, such as right now we're dealing with inflation, right? The Fed announced again today that they're going to do a rate increase either later at the end of this month or next month. And the market shot down. They lost a lot of value because right now the inflation is high and the government's been raising these rates all year last year and this year. And now everyone heard that Silicon Valley Bank had the government had to come in and take it over. And then there's a First National Bank, or I think it's First National, another bank that actually had a run on, and the government's going to have to step in. And other big banks are actually stepping in and putting money on their books so that they have the liquidity available. And the reason this is happening is these banks, when they bring in the money, when there's deposits there, they have to invest a portion of that money in like government and super safe bonds so that people, it's going to be there when people need to take it out. And unfortunately, all these years leading up until last year, interest rates were what? The lowest we've ever experienced. And you get, especially Jim, this being in the mortgage industry, like some of the lowest, I think it was the lowest recorded mortgages since they started keeping track of them. And, people were getting 2.5% mortgages or something close to that. So with all those low interest rates, because treasuries were paying nothing, the like Silicon Valley Bank had all this money that was invested in these treasuries that were paying nothing. So now with interest rates up, you can get almost a 1-year treasuries close to 5%, that paying close to 5%. And so when people went and started pulling money, all this money out of the bank, and it wasn't like before where you actually had to call or go in, you can do it on your phone. So it's happening much quicker. When the run started on the SV Bank, there was Silicon Valley Bank, they had to start selling these treasuries. Well, if you have a treasury that's paying 0.2% and they're offering new ones that pay 5%, you have to sell them at a steep discount. So that's a big problem that we're addressing right now is inflation with these interest rate hikes. We have the election coming up, and we have still fallout from everything that happened with COVID. And then also I know home sales has slowed down. And I think from what I've heard is new home sales have slowed down, and all these things are coming together. And so we got to make sure that as we're nearing retirement, we have a plan to address these concerns. And, as you get closer to retirement, you want to reduce the risk. And then you want to make sure you have an income plan incorporated with the tax plan. Make sure you take your Social Security at the right time. So this next slide here, even if it says zoom out, right? So to reduce your risk, these are some that you can see steep losses and growth there. If you pull back and going back even farther, it doesn't look as drastic. The number one thing we do know are the markets are going to, in the overall scheme of it, they're always going to go up, right? It's just when are we going to have the dips in there, and how's it going to affect us, right? And so just think about it. If you're farther away from retirement, if you got 10, 15, 20 years till you retire, you can just kind of, out of sight, out of mind. But if you're if you're closer to retirement, you got to be a little more careful. But just so you know, the markets will always end up going up. And being invested in the market is how we gives us the ability and the potential to outpace inflation. Right now, last year, you could actually buy U.S. Treasury bonds, which are just like savings bonds, but they're inflation bonds, and you can buy them in $10,000 increments. And they actually had a 6-month period where the annualized return that you got if you bought them was over 9%. The downside of that, the good news is that made us able to get some kind of better rate of return. But the downside is that also means that inflation's high, and it costs us more to purchase the same stuff we could purchase a couple just 2, 3, 4 years ago. I ordered a brand new car in January, at the end of January of 2022, and it's still not in. I actually got to call the Cadillac dealership because it's crazy. I mean, it's ridiculous. But they had supply chain issues, and they can't build the cars fast enough and trucks fast enough. And so it's put a demand and put a spike in raising the prices and everything there too. So, but investing in the markets is great for long-term growth. And you just have to make sure you're properly diversified and have a proper plan based on what your goals are. Here is, like, if you look at it by year, going back to 92, we've had a lot of great ups, but we've also had some big downs. But there's a lot more ups than downs. The downside is when those downs hit, when I look at it, if you look at the overall of the market, the last 10 years, it's average like 10% a year. If we look at the last 21 years, going back to 2000, the S&P 500's only averaged 5% a year. So it's a lot of risk, where it did not too long ago, it did 72% over 3 years, right? So it's a lot of risk for a lot of reward, but it also what goes up must also eventually come back down. So you just got to make sure you properly set things up so that it doesn't negatively affect your preparing for retirement. And so you want to make sure you prepare and have an overall plan together. And that's what we do. When a couple comes and sits down in our office and we're looking at them preparing to retire, a lot of times I'll ask, hey, where's your income going to come from in retirement? And I say, well, Brad, I'm retiring, so I'm not going to be working anymore. I'm not going to have a paycheck. I'm just going to have Social Security coming in, plus I'll have whatever savings and retirement accounts that I'll be able to pull from. Right. So the biggest thing is you want to make sure that you have a proper plan put together so you know where your income's going to come from each and every month, because Social Security is not enough to cover all of our expenses in retirement, or most people's expenses. You're going to have to supplement with your retirement dollars, which have never been taxed before. So I put a huge emphasis on taxes, because they tell you that when you retire, your taxes are going to be lower in retirement. But is that true? For the most part, it seems people are paying more taxes in retirement because you no longer have deductions and stuff. So for the most part, it's false. And I can tell you that from sitting across the table from a lot of people preparing to retire, and all the clients that I deal with on a daily basis who are retired. And so your retirees are losing their tax deductions. Also, I look at it like retirees are actually planning to retire and actually going out and doing the fun retirement stuff that we've always talked about. Whereas my grandma and grandpa, my grandma just passed away in October of 21 at 91 and a half years old. And her and my grandpa grew up in the Great Depression era. They didn't go out and do a lot of travel. They didn't spend a lot of money. Their houses had been paid off for 1,000,000 years. And they had retired. My grandpa retired in the early 90s. And their idea of ideal retirement was they were homebodies. My grandpa watched every Tigers game, Red Wings game, Pistons game, Michigan football. He watched every sport, every football game, baseball game, all of them. That was what he enjoyed doing. And my grandma learned to enjoy doing it too. They didn't travel a whole heck of a lot. In fact, I don't ever remember them going to the airport to get on a plane. I know they flew before, but I don't ever remember them going on a trip and having to hop on a plane. But their idea of going on vacation was hopping in the car and driving down to Pennsylvania and visiting family down there. But they had a great retirement, and they enjoyed it. But things have drastically changed and shifted and are shifting. My parents are retired also now, and they are, my mom will be 65 this year. My stepdad is actually going to be he turned 71 in September, and they are busy. They're constantly going off on vacation. They go to, especially in the winter, they like to go down to Florida for a couple months. They do like to do road trips, and they're out spending and enjoying and doing stuff, and they'd love to spoil the grandkids. So we're spending more money, and we're living longer. Future tax rates are going up, and we're paying, and a lot of people are paying taxes on Social Security. So even if you don't need money from your retirement accounts, right, they're going to force you to start taking it out depending on the year you were born, either at 73 or 75. Now, that's new. Last year, from the Secure Act in 2019, it changed it to age 72, right? And before that, it was 70 and a half. So they're constantly changing the rules and making it more and more complex for the do-it-yourselfers or people like to do the planning for yourself. It's getting harder, and you don't want to really be doing that in retirement. You want to work with someone that can help you. And I look at it this way: like a lot of times, a lot of the clients that I've been started working with, one of the spouses handles the investments, and the other spouse usually handles the spending, right? Like the budgeting and everything like that. And so if something happens to the spouse that handles all the investments and all the planning, what's the surviving spouse going to do? Right. And so I have people that come to work with me just for that reason. So if they pass away, that I can help take care of their spouse. Right. And so you want to be able to control what you can. And so even if you're younger and you got 15 years from till you retire, this can even help you a lot. You want to be able to control what you can. And that's the way you save to minimize taxes in retirement. Things that you do today can affect how your retirement will be. And so when I look at it, today about a third of people are confident that they will have enough income that they're going to need for retirement. And since COVID, since the COVID pandemic, 70% of people are more pessimistic about their retirement plans. And a lot are rethinking how they're going to spend retirement. And some is voluntary. Hey, I'm going to retire earlier than I planned because life's too short. Or some people, quite a few people lost their jobs, right? And if you're 60 years old, 55 years old, 60 years old, and still working, and you lose your job, how easy is it going to be to find a new job making what you made, right? And so you want to, people are rethinking their overall plan. One of the biggest things people forget in retirement is budgeting for taxes. And taxes can end up being a lot more depending on what your income is and what taxes are going to do in the future. So we want to build out a plan to make sure that you do things in a tax efficient manner. And I'm just going to go over quick some basics here. So these are the ordinary tax brackets for 2023. The biggest thing for retirees right now is a standard deduction at the top. So if you're 65 and married, and you're both 65, the first 30,700 of income is completely tax-free, right? After that, the next 22,000, you pay taxes at a 10% rate. And then from there, it's the next 66,500 or so, you pay taxes at a 12% rate. And so you add that up, so that's almost $120,000 in income, and you pay at most tax at a 12% rate, and you're going to pay a total tax on that, way less than 10, or probably between 9 and 10% overall, right? Which is very good, but it's when things that can cause that to go up a lot more is once if you have to pay taxes on your Social Security. So so for example, we got single filer that makes 150,000 of income. Their effective tax rate is 17.1%, even though they're in a 24% tax rate, right? Because you only pay the higher tax at the higher brackets on the amount over, not all of your income.
Mouse over there. Here we go.
Okay.
And then I gotta sign in some stuff over here.
Oh.
Boy.
You're doing good.
Yeah,
Hon.
yeah.
Doing good. Yeah.
All right, if we could, I think someone's
Okay,
unmuted.
almost.
Oh, there we go. All right, perfect. All right. So here we're going to talk about, there's three basic types of money. We've got our taxable money. So this is money that you earned. You pay taxes on it. It goes into your checking savings account. And moving forward, you don't pay any taxes on that.
Hello, my baby.
On that basis, you only pay taxes on the earnings. And so that's a good bucket of money to look at. We have our tax deferred money, which is all of our retirement accounts. And then we have our tax-free money, which is probably the most important bucket of money that we're going to talk about here. And the reason it being, and I'm going to tell you, it's mainly for most people, it's going to be a Roth IRA. Roth money is great. You don't get a deduction now, but the growth on it is completely tax-free. So for example, if we went back in a time machine and you were able to be a investor in PayPal, they offered people the chance to buy stock options for the employees. They could buy those stock options for pennies on the dollar. And there's actually a gentleman that worked for that was an investor, or that was at the beginning of PayPal, and he bought $1,800 worth of those stock options with his Roth IRA money. And if you had to guess what it's worth today, it's a hard guess. I'll tell you, it's $5 billion. It was actually in the Detroit News not too long ago. And now all that growth, he or his loved ones, he or his loved ones will never pay any tax on that. Right now, we don't have $5 billion tax free in a Roth, but what we can do, the number one thing I look at when I look at a Roth IRA is it gives us control. It gives us the ability to control our taxes in retirement. And I'm going to give you an example of that coming up here shortly. One big thing that I'll touch on, I'm not going to go through it too much because it takes some time. But the biggest thing that people that really catches people off guard in retirement is when they end up having to pay
Disappeared in a thin air. I thought, man,
when they have to pay taxes on their Social Security, right? So
boy, are we ever. We got to tell you guys.
they look at your provisional income, and you at most,
I think so.
Okay.
We have
at most they pay taxes on 85. Would pay taxes on 85% of your Social Security. So, for example, if you're married filing jointly and your provisional income is over $44,000, they're going to tax
An
you.
airplane in quite a while.
They're gonna
Bruce and I
tax
Got her line.
85% of your Social Security. And so it can be a huge amount that's taken out of your
Hold
pocket.
that, but I can't.
So if you have 50,000 in Social Security benefits, and they tax 85% of it, that's $42,500. If you're in a 20% tax bracket, that means of that 50,000, $8,500 is out of your pocket, right? Now, if they were to double taxes and taxes were to go to 40%, and I know some of you are saying, oh, taxes would never go that high. But taxes back in the 80s at 30,000 of income, you were at a 37% bracket, which is the highest bracket we have now. So if taxes doubled to 40%, then you're going to pay $17,500 in taxes. $17,000 in taxes of your 50,000 of Social Security. It's not small numbers. So having the Roth money will give us the ability to control our taxes in retirement. And here's an example right here. So for example, we have two couples in 2023 that decided that they want to take their grandkids to the Grand Canyon for vacation. They're both budgeting $10,000 for the vacation, but before they leave, they want to, they're doing some renovations and they need to pay the contractors an additional $10,000. So in addition to their normal
How's
$100,000,
that?
in addition to the normal $100,000 that they're living off of, they need $20,000 more. And so the first couple, they're going to take it out of their retirement account, right? Because they don't have diversified accounts. All they have is retirement dollars. And so they're taking that additional $20,000 out of their retirement account. It ends up costing them a total $10,276 in taxes on their overall income. Now, couple two have different buckets of money to pull from. So they're going to pull money from a non-qualified or a non-qualified bank account, $10,000 out of there, which doesn't cause any additional taxation because that money's been taxed. And then they're going to pull an additional $10,000 out of their Roth IRA. Now, the Roth IRA, all that growth in that grew tax-free. When it comes out, it's not taxable and it does not cause taxation on Social Security. So their overall tax, their total tax that they're going to pay is $7,876. So that's quite a bit of money. That's almost $2,500 difference in taxes paid by pulling from different spots, right? So that gives us the ability in retirement to be able to control those taxes. And so it's very important to structure yourself so that you're going to be able to control your taxes in retirement. Having these diverse accounts may allow you to stay in a lower tax bracket, and it's really important when taxes go up. And one of the reasons we know taxes are going to go up is as of February 21st, the national debt was $31 $1.5 trillion, right?
Here, that's right.
Okay.
And to put that in perspective, so if you take a million, so if you want to look how big a trillion is, if you take 1 million seconds and convert it to time, it's or days, it's 11.5 days.
And well, maybe I could, well, I can write.
A billion seconds is 32, equivalent to 32 years.
Yeah.
A trillion seconds is equivalent to 32,000 years. And so there's only two things the government can do to reduce this debt: either cut expenses or raise taxes, right? And I don't think there's enough expenses they can cut to get that down. And right now it's projected that in 2027, it's going to be 44 trillion in debt. And so one thing that we also know is that the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2025 from 2017, which lowered our tax rates and rate to where they are today, is going to revert back to what it was in 2020. In 2026, it's going to revert back to what it was in 2017. Now, what that means to you, for example, if you're in a 12% bracket, you're going to go up to 15%. That's 3% difference. If you're in a 22% bracket, that could cause you to go anywhere from 25 to 28%. So it's a lot less money going in your pocket and more going to Uncle Sam. Whereas if we properly set ourselves up and had a plan put together, we can minimize those taxes and keep that extra money in your pocket. And here it's showing, in February of 21, it's showing the national debt at $44 trillion. So we know that taxes have to go up, and it's going to hurt retirees the most. So right now, and right now is a good time to talk about it because it's tax time. You want to take advantage of the lower tax rates. So here we are. How can you get a Roth IRA? So you can make a contribution each year, right? If you're under 50, you can do $6,500 this year. If you're over 50 and over, you can do $7,500 this year. Except that if your income's above somewhere around 200,000, if you're married filing jointly, you can't contribute directly to a Roth. But anybody can take money from a traditional IRA and roll it directly into a Roth IRA, right? So all you have to do is pay the taxes in the year that you convert it. So if you took 100,000 out of your IRA and paid the tax from bank money, right, and it goes in your Roth, that 100,000 is going to grow completely tax-free moving forward. And so we do what we do is we do a Roth conversion analysis for our clients each and every year. We also look at being able to contribute to Roth IRAs because, again, the Roth is a great tool. It's going to save you a ton in taxes. The reason I like it so much and the reason I recommend everyone plan on having this tool in their arsenal is it helps you control your taxes in retirement. So I've got a couple examples here really quick that I'll go over with you, and then we'll cut it off. I don't want to take too much time. I wanted to give a quick overview, but these are some real world examples to show you what the power of having the Roth bucket to your advantage. So here we have Bill and Karen. They're 63. They're retired, right? They have 30,000. They have 70,000 in income, 35,000 from a pension, 35,000 from Social Security. They have a total of 300,000 in retirement savings, and I'm going to project out 6% a year for this example. And their main goal is to leave that money to their loved ones, right? So the good news about that is that 300,000 is going to grow from age 63 all the way up to age 73, right? At age 73, they're going to have to start taking those required minimum distributions. So it grows from 300,000, there's an error on the slide. It's actually 590,000 there, not 506. But over 6 years or over 10 years at 6%, it grows to 590,000. Now, which is great, except that now they have to take required minimum. They're going to have to take required minimum distributions from 73 on. So here it is. So from 63 to 73, they're living off their 70,000 of income. they're in a 12% bracket, 13,000 of their Social Security is taxable, and they're going to owe about $2,053 in federal tax. Not bad for 70,000 of income. But when we get to that RMD age, right, 73, their IRA balance is now at 590,000. So at age 73, the divising factor is 26.5, which means their RMD for the year is $22,270. So when you add that income in, they're now almost 29,000 of their Social Security is taxable. They're still at a 12% rate, but all they are doing is added $22,000, and it's jumping their Social Security or their total federal tax owed over $6,200. That's a lot of money for that. It's more than a quarter of that distribution. But what could they be doing different, right? So what they could do is, instead of just letting it ride for those 10 years, what if they did some tax planning and did some conversions along the way, right? The good news is once it's in a Roth, there's no RMDs. The income drawn off it is completely tax-free, and it's provisional to income tax-free, so doesn't cause your Social Security to be taxed. The bad news is you got to pay taxes on the conversions each and every year, but you're choosing how much you can convert, and you're paying the taxes at a comfortable level that you want to do, right? So when we look at doing that, from 63 to 72, they do conversions. And if you look here, I'm converting 45,000 each year. And then within 9 years, they're fully converted over. So it's double the amount that they were taking for their required minimum distribution. And the tax that they're paying is only a little over less than $1,200 more for almost double the distribution, right? And so they do that for those 9 years. And the way they do it, the reason I came up with 45,000 is they're in a 12% bracket, but they're not at the top of it. They're partway through it. They can take out 45,000 and still convert it at that 12% rate. Now, if they take out more than that 12%, if they take out more than that 45,000, they're going to have to pay tax at a 22% rate. Is that efficient to go from 12 to 22? No, for their situation, it's not. So after 3 years, 135,000 is converted, 6 years, 270. After 9 years, that whole 300,000's grown and been converted to all Roth money, and it's $490,000. So when it comes down to at age 73, now they have 497 in a Roth IRA. They don't have to take a required minimum distribution. Now, remember, their whole goal is just to pass this money on. So they're paying taxes at a 12% rate, paying $2,053 in taxes. At the end of the day, in the first case, they die at 90. Their IRA balance at death is 443. Their brokerage account, because they reinvested after they took that required minimum distribution and paid the tax, they reinvested it in a taxable account that grew to 545. Now, through along that time, they're going to have to pay taxes on that, and their loved ones are going to have to pay taxes on the IRA balance. But their total account value is $989,000, $1 million that they're going to leave to their loved ones. Now, my dad told me that if anything was left over, he miscalculated. But I found that if you're a saver and always been a saver, there's going to be money left over. They spent $98,000 more than they did when they did the conversions in taxes, right? So they put more money in their pocket there. Now, and when they did the conversions down here, the Roth IRA balance at death, $1.7 million almost. It's almost $710,000 more, and all of it's completely tax-free that they leave to their kids. And they saved, by doing that, they saved $98,000, right? That's the power of having different buckets to pull from and knowing how the tax code works, right? The second example here, this is a couple, they're 51 years old, right? So they're not ready to, they're a little bit farther away from retirement. They have 15 years because they want to retire at 66. So they're living off of $100,000 income. They're putting $25,000 in their 401k, which lowers their taxable income to $75,000. They have $250 in a 401k, they're putting 25,000 away per year and they're earning 5%, and the company doesn't match anything, right? So they go on their merry way, and they want to have 75,000 income in retirement. So they do that from 51 to 66. They save that 25,000 a year. When they're doing that, they pay each year in federal tax $5,562. I didn't equate inflation in here because I wanted to keep it simple. And so at the end of the day, they're putting 25,000 away and they're living off of 69,433. Here we are. Once they hit 66, it's time for retirement. They have almost 1.1 million in their 401k. They're going to take a 4% distribution, 43,500 out, the rule of 4%. Their Social Security, 23% is tax, or 23,000 is taxable. After the standard deduction, everything, they pay 4,500 in tax, and their net retirement income is 79,958. So they met their income goal and almost are living off of 5,000 more. They're currently in a 12% bracket, but they're paying taxes on Social Security, and a large amount of their nest egg is subject to higher taxes in the future. Because I just kept it straight through the same at 12%. We know it's going to go to at least 15 in a few years. But I wanted to keep it simple, and then the children are going to have some tax issues if taxes go up in the future. And so what could they do different? So instead of putting the 25,000 a year into their 401k, we recommend they put 22,000 into their 401k, into their Roth 401k, right? So they're saving 3,000 less, right, than they were before. And the reason they're doing that is here at the bottom, see their net spendable income, 69,438. We didn't want them to have less money and save more, saving up for retirement. So we save less and put it in the save to a Roth. They do that for those 25 years. So now at 66, they have 519 in a traditional 401k, 498 in a Roth. They're going to take 22,000 and change out of the 401k, 19,000 and change out of the Roth. Taxable Social Security, 5,000. But actually, because of the standard deduction, they pay zero federal tax, right? And so their net retirement income is 82, almost 82.5. And that's just by using the tax code to their advantage and having those multiple buckets to pull from. And so at the end of the day, they spent $45,000 more in their working years to save $550 minimum by doing the tax planning. So they're putting more money in their pocket by doing that tax planning. And then because each distribution they take out at the current rates, they're paying zero taxes. So it's a win-win-win. It's the 401k, they got a deduction for going in. It grew tax deferred. And when they take it out, because they're able to control that amount, they're able to take it out without paying any taxes. And so at the end of the day, it's all about having options and flexibility to be able to do things in an efficient manner. So I'm going to stop the presentation there. I mean, I've talked for 50 minutes right now, right? Close to 50 minutes. Hopefully no one fell asleep. But I just wanted to give you a rough overview of what we do and what I do for my clients each and every day.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Brad, for doing this presentation for us tonight. I'd like to open it up for anyone out here that may have any questions for you based on what you had talked about or on anything else that they would like to know.
All right, perfect.
Financial Word, if that's okay.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. I'm here for any questions.
Hi, Brad. I have a quick question.
Yeah, okay.
So I saw the Roth IRA, and I saw the last couple of slides. You also had Roth 401k.
Yep.
Is everybody eligible for Roth 401k, or that's like a company offering? I don't recall I had that eligibility.
Okay, so that's a great question. So that would be a company offering. So most companies now, more and more, more recently, more and more companies are adding the Roth option to the 401k. So what would happen is if they adopt it, and they may, your company's plan may have it, it's the same contribution limits as the traditional portion of it. And I bet you within, if your plan doesn't, it will probably have it within the next couple of years, because the new Secure Act that changed the age that RMDs are taken also made it mandatory starting next year, I believe, for certain income earners have to put any catch-up contributions into a Roth portion compared to the traditional where they get a tax break now. So what you could do is you could call the custodian who you have your plan with and find out if they do offer Roth.
If they don't, Brad, is obviously, is there another option that they can do with the Roth?
Yeah, so we can you can open up a traditional, or I'm sorry, a traditional Roth IRA, and the contribution, and you still have this year to make contributions for 2022. You have until April 15th, tax day, and if you're 50 and over, you can put 7,500 in. If you're under 50, you can put 6,500 in. You don't get a deduction. You can take it out of your savings account. You don't get a deduction on it, but all the growth on it will be tax-free.
Understand. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Brad? Wait here for a second.
All right. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I guess this is Leslie. When I first started investing in some of these, it was the Roth IRAs weren't around, right? And so we started off with the regular IRAs. Then it came about, well, does it make sense to convert or switch them over? And there's benefits of both ways. One of the thoughts is that, okay, if you stay in a traditional IRA, you have more money that's being invested because it's not being taxed. So is the growth on that going to be more substantial or not? But yeah. I do definitely see a benefit in what you're saying as well.
Yeah, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no. That's okay. I guess the big thing would be, it's kind of like, is the money that you're going to make on it going to be more than what you're paying taxes on it, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell you right now, every single scenario I've ran out, keeping the tax rates the same, it's better to do the conversions as long as it's efficient, right? And that means you got to look at the entire every piece of the puzzle to determine if it makes sense to do the conversion. So when people hear conversions, a lot of times they think, oh, I got to do it all at once. You never want to do that. You want to do it in steps and stages to take advantage of the current tax code. Because right now alone, we know in a few years that taxes are going to go up at least 3% for the most part for people, or 3 to 8%. So you want to make sure that you're utilizing the tax code and doing conversions if it makes sense. A lot of times if you're working, it doesn't make sense to, right? And that's where the contributions can come into play. But I highly, highly recommend at least looking at it each year to make sure to see if does it make sense or does it not.
Okay, great. No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great questions. Anybody else?
And Brad, if nobody else, can I have another question?
Yeah, no
Hey,
problem.
Okay, I missed what you explained your fee structure is to provide your service.
Oh, all right. So I didn't give any specific. So it all depends on the amount of assets that we're making the recommendation on and the recommendations that we have. So we always do a no cost consultation, right? We don't charge, you never pay unless you become a client. And what we do is we put together an overall plan. We look at the assets and everything that you have, and then we make our recommendations based on your situation. and then I know more specifically what the exact costs are going to be. And then we give you the exact breakdown of it at that point.
Thank you. Great.
You're welcome.
Yeah, because I think you were mentioning early on that it really depends on what you recommend for investing in, is depending on whether you get it from corporations that you're investing in, or if you get it from us.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it all depends on what recommendations we have. And it depends what stage you're at and when you're going to retire to determine what risk levels. And then we cater it from there based on the amount of assets. And I've even done it where I've charged just planning fees, not a management fee, depending on what the situation calls for. So we're pretty flexible. I'm a fiduciary, and so that gives me the ability to basically utilize anything to my advantage or to my client's advantage that's available out there.
Thank you.
You're
Terrific.
welcome.
Any other questions do we have out there? All right, great. Well, Brad, I want to thank you on behalf of the Altini team here at Keller Williams for being a part of this. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And we're also going to have this as a recording for anybody that wants to watch it again or rewatch it. We'll have it out into our database within the next week or so. And obviously, if you wanted to reach out to Brad too, we're also going to, in our database, when we get ready to send out the video, we'll also leave his information there, so you can also contact him directly too as well. But
And Jim, you can put my cell phone number in there too.
okay,
Yeah, you can put the cell phone number in there, and anyone can reach out. If it's questions for anything, you can give me a call, shoot me an email, and I'll get back to them as quick as possible. And even if it's something you don't think is relevant, it might be. So yeah, I don't mind taking the time to answer questions and stuff. So
and just to piggyback, as I am also a client of Brad's, that I think he, from my perspective, he does a terrific job. And when I was interviewing for different financial advisors, truly, he was the only one that really listened to what my goals were, and then tried to cater what I needed to do to hit my goals. So that's the thing I appreciated about Brad. So
thanks, Jim. And I appreciate you having me on the call today. And it's funny, believe it or not, it's pretty funny because our offices are right next to each other.
yeah, I know.
I didn't even think about saying that earlier.
But it wasn't when I first met you. So
Right.
You were out of Brighton when I first met you. So
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for being on the call. Really appreciate it. And as always, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this at the very end, as obviously we're here to help any way that we possibly can to serve you and your needs. And if you know anyone that's absolutely could use the expert services that Jay and I or Ruth can provide you, we're always here for you. So we're never too busy for your referrals. All right. Have a great night, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim and Jane. Thank you,
Yep.
Bradley.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you very much for putting this on. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye.